Hey, what's up, guys? Riff here. So today we're going old school with a PNG as I'm traveling and my potato laptop can't handle VTube Studio right now, so we're going to do it this way for today. So we're going to talk a lot about some recent flops and some updates regarding woke games in the industry, as well as we're going to re-examine the Game Awards and some of the fallout of their choices for the nominees of this year's Game of the Year. So, let's begin with this right here from That Park Play saying, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League's $100 deluxe edition now on sale for just $5. Sweet Baby Bomb hits a new low, and that is not a joke. The bomb that this game has been is really just impressive at this point. This is a very heavily invested project here with hundreds of millions of dollars to work with, huge production companies behind it, and obviously successful IPs to work with, and yet this game was an absolute bomb. And now, as you can see from the screenshot, this is from the actual store here. $4.99. Yes, we know the holiday season coming through here at Epic Games. They're going to do some discounts to boost sales during the holiday season, but this $4.99 for this $100 deluxe edition, that is really bad, considering this game came out in February. But if you look at the numbers, I mean, what else do you say, right? This game peaked right at the beginning at 13,000 players, which, by the way, a massive disappointment. And over time, immediately flatlined. I mean, I'm talking in about 2 months, flatlined to the point now where the current in-game player count of this live service game is 78 players. That is very disappointing. But you know what's not disappointing? The latest drop with Advanced GG right here. So to celebrate Creators Week, we're bringing back some very beloved products, including this ice shaker, this limited edition ice shaker featuring me and my wife, Darling Straub, and our vtuber models right here on the ice shaker, as well as the return of Rev's Rocket Pop, my official flavor jar right there, and it's a holographic edition of it, so if that's something you are interested in, as always, I recommend their flavor jars. They're absolutely delicious, and I will say, based on community reaction, the Rocket Pop is a fan favorite. People really love this flavor, and also the ice shaker, as always. Beautiful art and also very durable if you want to keep your drinks cool all day. I will put a link to this in the pinned comment. Check it out and the other items I have in my collection, and make sure to use code REV at checkout to save 10% off your order. Now let's return to the DEI Slop Fest. Here's another update from Unknown 9 Awakening. So the developer, Reflector Entertainment, has laid off 18% of their staff. That is not too surprising. This is yet another Sweet Baby infested product and studio right here. So the report comes from Games Industry Biz. So they actually used a report from Kotaku, who I know was begrudgingly reporting this, and they're doing it via Blue Sky, where basically every woke journalist is right now. But anyways, what's happening here is that it seems that 18% of the staff has been laid off, and these affected parties include QA, marketing, art and narrative teams, including narrative and game designer Anna Karina Bermudez and brand manager Manu Danuvel. So that's some pretty big news, but not surprising given the fact that this game also peaked around 200 players. Again, huge AAA title that expected to have a whole universe of products coming out of it. Another massive failure right there. Here's another one, ladies and gentlemen, just from a few days ago. And another black eye for Sony. LEGO Horizon Adventures debuts to even less Steam players than Concord. That is so funny because that is the new standard, right? Did this big AAA title flop harder than Concord? Yes or no? If no, damn, you're in for some big trouble. And let's look at the numbers. Again, this is really two big IPs here combining together to make what? A giant disappointment. So as you can see, the all-time peak, 602 players. And that was right on release. And that is less than Concord, which I believe was just short of 700. And then you can see the next day, down to 432 players. 2 days later, down to 372. Next day, 227. Next day, 163. And where we are right now on the 21st, a few days after release, we're down to 80 players. 80 players. About a week, exactly a week into release for this game. That is a massive, massive disappointment. There is no coping that can actually settle for those sorts of numbers. But anyways, here's another flop people are pointing out. So as Fandom Pulse points out here in their headline, retail pre-orders for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle over 86% worse than Dragon Age the Veilguard. Again, another standard that's been created. Did it flop harder than Dragon Age the Veilguard? So you can see this is a game that a lot of people are already confused about because of the pure simple fact of the timing, right? Like the timing makes no sense. Why is this game coming out now of all the time? And people go, well, you know what? Out of the Indiana Jones projects here, I mean, the latest film from 2023, massive box office flop. But is it really woke? What's going on? Well, this game in particular has a bit of a woke trail to follow here. So as this account points out, this is what happens when you develop a game after the disastrous box office of the latest movie in the franchise, announce a game that should have been developed 15 years ago, remember Uncharted? You center your marketing campaign on the game being adapted for modern audiences. Get woke, go broke. Now that phrase for the modern audiences is a death mark. Anytime that is associated with your project, it's going to be terrible and people are going to be very turned off to the game. And you can see this is the quote that comes from Edward Curtis Chavez, who is the narrative designer for this Indiana Jones game. And this is the actual quote saying, "We have the opportunity to tell Indiana Jones to modern audiences." Yep. Go woke, go broke, I guess is the appropriate phrase. Sometimes cringe when people say that, but like, what else do you say about all these products in the year 2024 and really the last couple of years? I mean, it's just the reality of the situation. And that is something that people are starting to point out. So as Mark Kern points out here, investors are now warning companies about DEI. There is some official letters going out warning companies that if they invest in DEI, they are not interested. They don't want to invest because it is a risk to their investment if their company they're investing in is in any way associated with DEI. Here's the actual letterhead here from the Alliance Defending Freedom. So they're talking about post-election investor statements. And coming off of the US presidential election, it seems there is a turning of the cultures here, and people are turning even harder on DEI. It's been a work in progress for years now. People have been growing increasingly fed up with DEI and anything that it's associated with. And now, based on the election, it seems that the incumbent president here is going to be cracking down even more on DEI related stuff. And this doesn't just involve the government. I mean, this trickles down into everything, including the gaming industry, for example. And in this letterhead, they talk about what DEI has been doing. And some companies are actually starting to wake up. So we can see some examples here, right, of Tractor Supply, John Deere, Harley Davidson, Jack Daniels, Ford, and Toyota, who have been completely wiping away their DEI-related departments because they are seeing a massive decrease in their sales as a result of the public finding out about those things. It is going to be a death mark, as I've said. Nobody wants to be associated with DEI if they're smart. That's why even the companies that are continuing to work with DEI-related companies and initiatives, they are doing so privately. That's why we're seeing client lists at Sweet Baby going private. We're seeing all the related woke consulting firms going even more underground because they know if they are discovered, if their connections are discovered, everything associated with that DEI-related initiative is going to suffer some kind of financial consequence. Now, let's move back to the Game Awards. So I have to give a little bit of an update on this. So I talked about this a few days ago, and as I already said earlier in the video, I've been traveling. I recorded this about 2 days before I traveled the Game Awards related video I released a few days ago. And the one thing I was saying in that video is that because of the jury list, which included all of the woke heads of the industry, including IGN, The Verge, some other unrelated parties like the LA Times, all these crazy parties that are known for being woke, they're the jury who controls 90% of the vote for categories like Game of the Year. And I said they will likely exercise their power to promote a game like Dragon Age The Veilguard. Now, it turns out, ya boy Rev, I was wrong. I was humbled. I was humiliated. Veilguard was not a part of that list. Once the nominee list came out, you can see Game of the Year nominees here. You got Astrobot, Balatro, Wukong, the Elden Ring DLC, which is a very interesting, Final Fantasy, and Metaphor. So honestly, out of all those titles, I don't think there's anything that's too surprising. The only real surprise is a DLC making it, which a lot of people have an issue with, and I think that's very understandably so. But let's begin with Wukong. So obviously a lot of people in the industry, including one of the jury members, IGN, have been going after Wukong nonstop. I mean, after all, IGN is the one who created the original hit piece, slandering the development team over at Game Science who produced this game, calling the creators or the leaders of the development team sexist, saying there was a sexist culture based on mistranslations of their social media posts and other unfounded claims. It has been debunked, and yet they have doubled and tripled down on that report, which has then been shared by pretty much the entire woke side of the gaming or the game news industry, and that has been a massive eye-opener for a lot of people, seeing the coordinated attacks. And speaking of coordinated attacks in the games journalism scene, as you can see, the new marching orders are out as a result of the Game Awards nominee list. You can see every single company on here saying the exact same thing. Every headline attacking Black Myth Wukong. Let's read a few of them. This one going, the Game Award nominees' lowest ever rated title for Game of the Year in Black Myth Wukong. The next one, Black Myth Wukong's Game of the Year nomination sticks out like a sore thumb. The next one from The Gamer. Black Myth Wukong is the Game Awards' lowest ever rated Game of the Year nominee. So at this point, I think you understand what they're driving at here. They're trying to basically say that this game is a massive disappointment in terms of its nomination for Game of the Year. It was so low rated. Well, who rated it low? These journalists. So they are doubling down on their low ratings for Black Myth Wukong, which shattered infinite records on Steam and with its concurrent player counts and the very, very, let's just say, satisfactory reception of this game amongst, the important people, gamers. Games journalists hated it. Well, that's fine. No one cares what they think, obviously, because this game did so well. And now they are coping and seething. And there's also, as I pointed out, something missing from this nomination list, and that was Dragon Age the Veilguard. Like I said, I'm actually surprised, and a lot of people go, wait a second, are the Game Awards based now? Are they saying that they're anti-woke? Absolutely not. I think this is a sign that putting pressure on these companies and these award shows and what have you actually works, and that is proof. Because I think if this went unchecked, if that jury list was not pointed out, which they eventually deleted and hid from the public, but it was too late, I think they would have nominated Dragon Age the Veilguard for Game of the Year. But because of the pressure on social media, I mean, there was a lot of pressure. Like, their posts were getting ratioed on their official account. That is the reason I think Dragon Age the Veilguard did not end up on the Game of the Year list. And that is a very positive sign that putting pressure on these companies and these parties does actually work. But as Mark Kern points out here, there is an award that Dragon Age the Veilguard has been nominated for, and guess what it is? Out of all the awards, which one were they selected for? Innovation in accessibility. Chef's kiss. You know what? If they weren't being serious, I think this would be a really funny burn on this game, because basically the only thing that they're good at is being diverse and having accessibility for people who probably are just a bunch of screechers on Twitter who are never going to buy the game or probably couldn't even afford to buy the game in the first place. But anyways, I digress. It seems, though, that some people, those at Polygon, for example, are very upset about this Game of the Year nomination list and the fact that Veilguard was not on it, as they say. There was one big snub in the Game Awards nominations. Dragon Age the Veilguard, a game engineered to succeed at the Game Awards, did not. So what does that tell you? It tells you it's a bad game. It's not just woke. You know, some games can have woke elements and do really well. Baldur's Gate 3, the character creation process, considered by many to be very woke, but the game itself, very good. And the wokeness ends at the character creation process. Everything beyond that is focusing on good gameplay and entertainment. Unfortunately for Veilguard, it doesn't end at character creation. It goes into the actual game itself. I mean, literally pulling a bard, characters doing push-ups because they're misgendering each other. It's ridiculous. There's infinite examples of stuff like that being injected into the game, and no one likes it. Nobody likes it, and the numbers based on the game are very clear. However, just because Polygon's upset here, there seems to be a lot of journalists turning on Dragon Age the Veilguard because they really have no choice at this point based on the very disappointing numbers of this game. So Here's some actual reports from The Gamer. Of all the people, The Gamer is turning on Dragon Age of Veilguard, saying Dragon Age of Veilguard is that friend that's too woke. And they're saying that basically, not only is it too woke, it's too safe. It's playing it too safe. So they're trying to do all this virtue signaling and this political ideology injection into the game, but they're doing it in a too safe of way. Too safe of a way. And that is really funny. The woke journalists are saying you can't even hang with us anymore. You're too woke. That's how crazy things have gotten. Now, one last thing I want to point out here before we go. As Mark Kern points out, I've seen this image all over the place. There's a new category called DEI Slop Flop of the Year, including games like Concord, Veilguard, Dustborn, Outlaws, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and Unknown 9 Awakening. Now, of course, this is not a real category for game or the Game Awards, but you might see it at this right here, the Real Game Awards, as Craig promotes here. You guys might want to check this out. You can find this at right here on Twitter if you want to support the Real Game Awards, an award show made by gamers for gamers. But yeah, they're going to do actual flop categories, which I think is hilarious and something we need in the year 2024, following all these massive flops in the industry that just happen to be a bunch of woke virtue signalers. But anyways, that's going to do it for this video. I appreciate the listen, guys. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comment section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.